Did you know that the home organizing industry is worth $12 billion? Yet most people's homes are still a mess. That's not a coincidence. That is a clue. Because here's what $12 billion worth of bins, baskets, drawer dividers, and label makers has not managed to fix. We have more storage solutions than any generation in human history, and somehow we also have more clutter than any generation in human history. We have solved the wrong problem with incredible efficiency. Bravo to us. About 15 years ago, I had my uncle build shelves in our old house. Beautiful shelves, custom built, floor to ceiling in both my storage room and my garage. I was so excited. Finally, I thought, everything will have a place. Everything will be contained. Everything will make sense. No more problems in life for me ever. And for about 3 weeks, it was pretty good. But then something interesting happened. The clutter didn't disappear. It didn't even stay contained. The shelves filled up. Then the floor around the shelves filled up. Then the doorway filled up. The clutter didn't disappear. It just got inspired. It saw the shelves and it thought, finally, room to grow. I can do something with this. Challenge accepted. So instead, I ended up standing there looking at this beautiful custom storage solution, absolutely drowning in stuff. And I realized something really uncomfortable. The shelves actually weren't the problem. I had spent over the years, probably thousands of dollars. I am not joking you, on shelving, on totes, on storage, but they aren't the solution. In that situation, I had built the infrastructure for things that never should have been there in the first place. That's the organizing trap, and almost everyone falls into it. Here's why organizing is so seductive as a starting point. It feels productive. You can see the progress in real time. Things moving from chaos into neat little categories, labels going into boxes, surfaces clearing temporarily. Your brain is like, haha, and it gets a hit of satisfaction that feels almost identical to, actually solving the problem. I have conquered the problem, but it isn't solving the problem. It's decorating the problem. Think about it this way. I'm a retired ER nurse, and imagine you came in with a sore arm. It's red, it hurts, and the doctor looks at you, nods seriously, and then puts a cast on it. No x-ray, no real assessment, no understanding of if it's broken or where the break actually is or how bad it is, just straight to the cast because the cast feels like treatment. Meanwhile, maybe it was a rash that needed hydrocortisone and it did not need a cast. That's organizing without addressing the underlying problem first. It feels like treatment. It looks like treatment, and the break is still there, unexamined and getting worse underneath something that looks like a solution. Organized clutter is still clutter. It just has better posture. The bins don't reduce the amount of stuff, and the labels don't make the stuff any more useful. The beautiful custom shelves even don't ask the hard question of whether any of this should be here at all. Putting a label on a bin of things that you don't need, it's literally just giving clutter a formal introduction. Hello, I am miscellaneous. I live here now. I have a label. They just give everything a more comfortable place to live while continuing to take up your space, your energy, and your mental load. And by the way, I love this biscuit brew tea. If you know where to get it for less than $17 in Canada, please let me know. There's a reason that organizing feels so satisfying, even when it doesn't actually work. Visual order, it actually triggers a sense of calm in the brain. When things look neat, the brain reads the environment as under control. Even when nothing has fundamentally changed, the brain sees neat rows of labeled bins and it thinks, we did it. We are organized people now. Meanwhile, inside those bins is the same chaos that was on the floor just last week. Just horizontal now and alphabetized. The chaos is still there, it's just wearing a sign now, but you know deep down what's really going on inside. And this is why people can spend an entire Saturday organizing a space, feel genuinely accomplished, and then just watch it slowly return to chaos over the following weeks. The satisfaction was real, the solution was not. Research actually shows that cluttered environments keep cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, elevated throughout the day, especially in women. Now, cortisol, it actually should elevate when we wake up. It's what kind of kickstarts the day, but then it should decline quickly and stay low for the rest of the day. But a study showed that women's cortisol actually for people who are women who are in cluttered houses, it stayed higher for the day and men's stayed lower. So how's that for fair? And here's the cruel irony. Organizing without decluttering first gives you just enough visual relief to reduce that cortisol temporarily, which then makes you feel like the problem is solved, which means you've stopped before you've actually fixed anything. The relief becomes the enemy of the real solution. The real problem is almost always one of two things. Either there is genuinely too much stuff for the space, or there is no system for what comes in and what goes out. And usually it's both. When there's too much stuff, organizing just redistributes it. Things move from one surface to another, from one room to another, from visible chaos to contained chaos. But the volume never ever goes down, it goes up. And yes, the volume, that is the actual problem. When there is no intake system, no plan for what comes into the house and what leaves, decluttering becomes a losing battle. You clear a space, you feel great about it, and then you watch it slowly refill because nothing changed about how stuff enters the home. It's like you have a boat and you're bailing out that boat, but you're not fixing the hole. You can work as hard as you want and you will still be losing. This is why the same spaces keep defeating you. It's not because you're disorganized, and it's actually not because you lack discipline or motivation or the right storage solutions. It's because the sequence is wrong. Organizing was never supposed to be the starting point. So if organizing is not where you start, well, where do you start? You start with triage. So in the emergency room, or department really, we don't just treat patients in the order that they arrive. We treat them based on who needs help most urgently. We assess first. We understand the situation before we act. That's what happens when you check in. If you're ever like, why is this taking so long? You've been triaged. And that assessment completely changes what we do next. So your home, it needs the exact same approach. Triage means looking around your home and identifying the spaces that are causing you the most daily stress. For a lot of people, it's the kitchen or it's the bedroom. Ignore my cat. He seems to think that I haven't fed him. He's a huge liar. I fed him. Anyway, not the spaces. We're not going to start with the spaces that look the worst, not the spaces that you think you should tackle first. Really, we want to start with the spaces that are actually impacting your life every single day, because those are the spaces that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, and then you can move on. The kitchen counter you can't work on, the bedroom that doesn't let you rest, the entryway that greets you with chaos every time you walk through the door. Most people, they skip triage entirely and they start wherever feels easiest or what feels least overwhelming, which isn't necessarily terrible if it's sort of like just to get yourself going. But we want to get to those spots that are really affecting us, because quite often then those people, they're spending energy on spaces that don't actually affect their daily life, while the spaces that matter most stay broken. Once you've identified your priority space, you need to understand why it's like this. What accumulates there? What habits, yours or other people's, are contributing to it? And this is not the blame game. We're just trying to understand. Grab it. Shh. Grab it. Enough. Again, we just want to understand it just so we can fix it instead of just temporarily tidying it. If you want a step-by-step guide to actually walk you through the triage process room by room, then my Mighty Blueprint does exactly that. It's free and it's comprehensive, and it walks you through every stage of my whole Mighty method, which is my decluttering process, with specific checklists, troubleshooting tips for when real life gets in the way. So you can grab it at minimalisthome.ca/blueprint, and I'll link it below. After triage comes a step that most people either skip entirely or they do in the wrong order. And that is simplification. Getting rid of what doesn't belong before organizing what does belong. And this is where the real work actually happens. And it's also where the most organizing advice completely falls apart, because a lot of the organizing advice, it skips straight from identify the problem to here are great storage solutions without ever addressing the volume of stuff that made the space unmanageable in the first place, because they can't really sell you totes if you've decluttered the stuff you don't need, right? Simplifying means being super honest about what belongs in your life right now. Not the aspirational life that you want, not the life that we had 10 years ago with our little kids, your actual current life. The clothes that don't fit and the kitchen gadgets from the cooking phase that passed, or your hobby supplies from that hobby that just sort of disappeared, the just in case items that have been waiting for their moment for years and whose moment is simply not coming. All of it needs to be evaluated honestly before a single bin gets purchased or a single shelf gets built. Because here's what happens when you simplify first. The organizing step becomes almost effortless. When you've reduced the volume to only what genuinely belongs, finding homes for things afterwards becomes straightforward. It becomes fun. You're like, I will put this with this and all of that. You don't need elaborate systems for stuff that you actually use. You just need enough space and a logical place for everything to live. The organizing step is important. It's just not first. It's never first. Now, and only now, do we finally organize. And the organizing that happens after thorough simplification, it just looks completely different. It is so much more fun. It's simpler. It's more functional. It's based on how you actually use things rather than how things look in a storage catalog or on Instagram or Pinterest. Everything that stays, it needs a specific home. Not a general area, a specific spot. The batteries live in the drawer. The cleaning supplies live under the sink. The extra towels live on this shelf. Specific, logical, accessible, and the homes that you create should make sense for how you actually live. If you always just take your vitamins in the kitchen, don't keep them in the bathroom because that's where vitamins are supposed to go. If you always make tea by the kettle, keep the tea next to the kettle or the kettle next to the tea. Organize around your actual habits and not around some idealized version of how a home should look. The goal is to make putting things away as easy as taking them out. If returning something to its home requires effort or inconvenience, it won't happen consistently. And if it doesn't happen consistently, the system fails. Not because you failed, because the system wasn't designed well enough. Now the next step, it's just where everything becomes sustainable, and it is the step that separates the weak from the strong. The people who get organized once from people whose homes stay consistently manageable. This is my Thrive step, and it is about building daily habits and rhythms that prevent clutter from accumulating again. Not motivation, systems, because motivation I love motivation when she bothers showing up, but she can be completely unreliable as a long-term strategy because she's busy flitting about all around the countryside. Systems work whether you feel like it or not. The people whose homes always stay clean, the ones you could surprise visit at any moment and aggravatingly find their kitchen spotless and their bedroom peaceful, Sharon. They're not spending more time cleaning than everyone else. They're spending less because they've built simple daily habits that prevent messes from accumulating in the first place. So here's what that would look like in the kitchen. So say you triaged your kitchen, you decluttered it by simplifying it, you organized it, and now these are your Thrive systems. So you will have a morning reset, 5 to 10 minutes of closing the loops that were opened last night. So if you have teenagers, first you're gonna go around and collect all of your missing dishes and your missing cutlery. Then you're going to get the dishes from breakfast done before work starts. Surfaces wiped, anything that drifted back to the wrong place returned to home. Next, we're going to do a reset every single evening without exception. So your counters are wiped, the dishes are done, the sink is clean. One more lap around the house to get those dishes and that cutlery from those teenagers. And because the kitchen is so important, it sets the tone for the whole house. When it is under control, everything else feels so manageable. And when it's a disaster, everything else feels like a disaster. And these are just examples of pretty much what I do, but you can do this in any space. And these are just simple routines. This is not like your whole house. You're like, I have like this massive checklist and I have to go through everything. This is just how consistent progress happens without consuming your entire life. None of this requires superhuman discipline. You don't need to wait for that little, you know what, motivation to show up. None of it requires a personality transplant or a sudden surge of motivation. It just is a system that's been designed well enough that the right thing is also the easiest next thing to do. The organizing industry, it's gonna go ahead and keep selling you bins. And the bins, they're gonna keep filling up. And the spaces will keep reverting. And you'll keep wondering what you're doing wrong. You are not doing anything wrong. You're just starting in the wrong place. Try my mighty method at minimalisthome.ca/blueprint. It's free because your home should feel like medicine when you walk through the door. Not a problem that has been waiting for you. Not a to-do list with furniture. A place that supports you, restores you, actually works for your life. And if you want to know exactly what daily habits of people with consistently clean homes looks like, the tasks, the rhythms, the mindset shifts that make it sustainable, that's exactly what I cover in this video right here. I hope something great happens for you today. Please like, subscribe, give us a hype. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.